The Chinese investor slammed the leather folder shut, stood up from the polished conference table, and uttered 6 words that sent a billion-dollar dream crashing toward disaster. "This deal is dead. I'm leaving." Silence exploded across the room. Executives froze. Lawyers exchanged panicked glances. Financial advisors stared at each other, as if someone had just pulled the floor from beneath the 72nd story of the luxury hotel tower they were sitting in. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, cranes stretched across the skyline. Thousands of workers depended on the project. Investors had already poured hundreds of millions into construction. Governments were watching. Banks were involved. International media had been preparing announcements. And now it was all collapsing. Victor Zhao, one of Asia's most powerful investors, picked up his briefcase and headed toward the door. "Mr. Zhao, please," the CEO pleaded. "There must be some misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding," Zhao replied coldly. "Your company has hidden information. Trust is gone." The room became even quieter. The CEO's face turned pale. "No one hid anything." "You did." Zhao pointed toward a financial report. "This document says one thing. Your internal operations show another. If this is how your company works before the contract, I cannot imagine what happens afterward." The investors accompanying him rose from their seats. The billion-dollar partnership was seconds from dying. Then something happened that nobody expected. The conference room doors slowly opened. A janitor stepped inside carrying a mop bucket. Several executives immediately frowned. "Not now," one manager snapped. The janitor nodded apologetically and began turning away. But then he heard Victor Zhao speaking Mandarin under his breath. The janitor stopped. His eyes narrowed. Something Zhao had said caught his attention. Nobody else understood it. Nobody except him. The janitor quietly listened for another few seconds. Then he spoke. In flawless Mandarin. "Sir, if I may say something, I believe there has been a translation error." The room nearly stopped breathing. The janitor had just interrupted a billion-dollar negotiation. Every head turned toward him. The CEO looked furious. "What are you doing?" she hissed. The janitor ignored her. Victor Zhao stared at him with surprise. "You speak Mandarin?" "Yes." "Fluently?" "Yes." The room was stunned. The janitor looked ordinary. Mid-40s. Worn uniform. Calloused hands. Single father. Night shift cleaner. The last person anyone expected to understand one of the most complex business discussions happening in the building. Victor Zhao slowly sat back down. "Explain." The janitor stepped forward. "My name is Daniel Carter." Nobody knew his name. Not a single executive. He had worked there for 3 years. Yet nobody knew his name. Daniel pointed at the disputed report. "You believe this figure represents hidden operating debt?" "Yes." "It does not." Victor Zhao frowned. "It clearly says liability." Daniel shook his head. "In English, yes. But the Mandarin translation your team received uses wording that suggests undisclosed debt obligations. That wording changes the meaning entirely." The room went silent again. Daniel continued. "The original document refers to future maintenance allocations, not existing debt." Victor Zhao's financial team quickly opened their laptops. They checked. Then checked again. Expressions changed. One analyst suddenly sat upright. "Wait!" Another analyst leaned closer. "Oh my God!" The translation was wrong. A single phrase. One small error. One mistranslated financial term. That tiny mistake had nearly destroyed a billion-dollar agreement. The CEO stared in disbelief. "How did you know that?" Daniel hesitated. "I studied business translation years ago." The executives looked at him as though he had suddenly transformed into a different person. Victor Zhao folded his arms. "You studied business translation?" "Yes." "At what university?" Daniel named one of the most prestigious institutions in the country. Shock rippled across the room. The CEO blinked. "That doesn't make any sense." Daniel smiled faintly. "I hear that often." Victor Zhao was now deeply interested. "Tell me something. Why is a man with that education cleaning floors?" Daniel looked down briefly. Then answered. "Life." No one spoke. Because everyone understood exactly what that meant. Life. A single word carrying years of pain. Years earlier, Daniel had owned a successful consulting firm specializing in international business communication. He had built it from nothing. Long nights. Sacrifices. Dreams. Then his wife became seriously ill. Medical expenses exploded. Contracts disappeared. Clients left. Debt mounted. Eventually, the company collapsed. Months later, his wife passed away. Daniel was left with a 6-year-old daughter and mountains of financial obligations. He sold everything. The house. The office. The cars. Everything. What remained was his daughter. And a promise. No matter what happened, she would never feel abandoned. So he took whatever work he could find. Construction. Warehouse shifts. Cleaning jobs. Security work. Anything honest. Anything that paid. Anything that let him raise his daughter. The room listened without interrupting. Even Victor Zhao. For the first time all day, the billionaire investor looked emotional. "My father was a factory worker," Zhao said quietly. Daniel nodded. "Then you understand." Zhao did. Perhaps more than anyone else in the room. Because despite his wealth, he remembered exactly where he came from. The meeting resumed. But something had changed. The atmosphere was different now. Within 30 minutes, Daniel identified 3 additional cultural misunderstandings between both negotiating teams. None involved dishonesty. All involved communication. Expressions. Context. Business customs. Different interpretations. Tiny details capable of creating massive conflict. By the end of the afternoon, the deal was alive again. But Victor Zhao wasn't finished. He looked directly at Daniel. "How much are they paying you?" Daniel laughed. "Not enough to become rich." "Answer the question," Daniel told him. The room became awkward. Several executives suddenly found the carpet fascinating. Victor Zhao stared at the CEO. "You have a man capable of solving international negotiation problems cleaning bathrooms?" The CEO had no answer. Neither did anyone else. Zhao shook his head. Astonishing. The following morning, Daniel returned to work expecting life to continue normally. Instead, he found the hotel lobby packed with executives. The CEO herself was waiting. So was Victor Zhao. And several news cameras. Daniel immediately felt uncomfortable. "What's happening?" The CEO smiled. "Something overdue." She handed him a folder. Inside was a formal employment offer. Daniel blinked. Then blinked again. The salary alone was more than he had earned in the previous 5 years combined. "What is this?" "A position as Director of International Relations." Daniel nearly dropped the folder. "You're serious?" "Very." He looked stunned. "But I don't have recent experience." Victor Zhao laughed. "You saved $1 billion deal yesterday. I got lucky." "No," Zhao replied. "You were prepared." Daniel stood speechless. The CEO took a deep breath. "There's something else I need to say." Everyone watched. Including reporters. She looked genuinely ashamed. "For years you worked in this building. I never noticed you. Not once." Daniel remained silent. "I walked past you hundreds of times." Her voice cracked slightly. "I knew titles. I knew investors. I knew executives. But I never knew the name of the man cleaning our floors." The lobby became quiet. "I was wrong." Daniel smiled softly. "Most people are busy. That's not an excuse." The CEO extended her hand. "Thank you for reminding me that talent doesn't always sit at conference tables." The cameras captured the moment. But the story didn't end there. A week later, Victor Zhao invited Daniel and his daughter to dinner. The event was private. No cameras. No reporters. Just people. During the evening, Zhao asked Daniel's daughter what she wanted to become when she grew up. She smiled. "A scientist." "Why?" "So I can invent things that help people." Zhao laughed. "That's an excellent reason." Then he asked her another question. "Who is your hero?" Without hesitation, she pointed at her father. The room fell silent. Daniel looked away, embarrassed. His daughter continued. "Dad says successful people help others climb too." Victor Zhao stared at Daniel. Then at the little girl. Then back at Daniel. "You taught her that?" "Yes." "You still believe it after everything life has done to you?" Daniel smiled. "Especially after everything life has done to me." Victor Zhao leaned back in his chair. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he made a decision. One that would shock the business world. 3 months later, when the billion-dollar hotel project officially launched, reporters gathered expecting speeches from executives and investors. Instead, Victor Zhao walked onto the stage and called Daniel forward. The crowd looked confused. Most had never heard of him. Zhao took the microphone. Everyone here wants to talk about buildings. The audience listened. But buildings are easy. He pointed toward Daniel. Character is rare. Hundreds of cameras flashed. This man saved our partnership. Applause erupted. Zhao raised his hand. And he reminded me of something important. The crowd quieted. Never judge a person by their position. The audience nodded. Judge them by their value. More applause followed. Then Zhao announced something nobody expected. His investment company was creating a scholarship fund in Daniel's late wife's name. $10 million. Dedicated to helping single parents return to education and rebuild careers. Many people in the audience were openly emotional. Daniel himself struggled to speak. His wife had been gone for years. Yet her name would now help thousands of families. That night headlines spread around the world. Not because of the hotel. Not because of the billion-dollar investment. Not because of corporate success. People shared the story because it reminded them of something society often forgets. The person standing quietly in the corner may be carrying extraordinary wisdom. The janitor cleaning the floor may understand more than the executives giving orders. The single parent fighting through exhaustion may possess strength that money cannot buy. And the individual everyone overlooks may be the one person capable of saving everything. Months later, the luxury hotel finally opened. Guests admired the architecture, the restaurants, the suites, the views. But near the main entrance stood a small bronze plaque. Most visitors passed it without realizing its significance. The plaque contained only one sentence. A sentence requested personally by Victor Zhao. A sentence inspired by the day a janitor walked into a conference room and changed countless lives. It read, "The greatest mistake in business is believing that importance wears a suit.